My name's Sergei Evglevski. I'm a pistol shooter for the Australian shooting team. I specialize in 25-meter rapid fire pistol. And so my biggest achievements have been being at the Tokyo Olympics, competing at the Tokyo Olympics, winning a silver medal at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, and being number one in the country in the 25-meter rapid fire pistol event, as well as winning World Cup medals, competing at the World Championships. And yeah, I think my proudest achievement is just representing my country in this sport.
Nice, cool. Good achievements.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was actually interesting. So I think was I typing up some info about you somewhere, but you have like a pretty big legacy in your family legacy in the Olympics.
Yeah. So my mum's competed at every Olympics between 96 and 2016. So Rio was her last Olympics, and
Wow.
then competed at every Commonwealth Games since 2002 up until 2018 Gold Coast, where we competed together. But Gold Coast was her last Commonwealth Games, and then she retired at those nationals in 2018.
Yeah.
So I think they were around Easter weekend, and she announced her retirement there. When you've been doing the sport for, it's been like almost 40 years, she just, the body kind of started giving in, and mentally she started giving in a bit as well. And she just felt like it was her time to finish up. So it was really cool to have that that overlap together, where we were competing together on the national stage, and be able to go to Com Games together as well was a pretty special moment.
How old was she when she retired?
She would have been, this is terrible, but I barely know my mum's age because she never told me. She keeps telling me she's 25, so that's awkward. So she would have been, she was born, she would have been like 50 something.
Right.
And she would have started the sport in teens. So she would have started the sport around 13, 14.
Yeah.
Just competing like at a junior level. They have a kind of like school teams as well in shooting.
Yeah.
So she would have competed at a very young age, and then would have been 50 something. So she's turning 60 this year, and it's 2023. So she retired in 2018. So obviously take off 5 years. So 55.
That's pretty great. So you've got another 25, 30 years in you?
Yeah. If I decide to go that long, then for sure.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I've already just for me personally, I think 2032 Olympics, if shooting is still in the program, because obviously it's one of those things where every Olympics you wait for the program to come out.
Yeah.
I think 2032 would be a really cool place to potentially retire, just because it'll be a home Olympics, as well as it'll be on the same range as where I won the 2018 Commonwealth Games silver medal.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be like a really cool, really awesome moment for myself. But honestly, it's a type of sport where as long as you're mentally fit, and you are obviously physically fit, but if you're mentally fit and you're mentally strong, it's a sport that has quite a lot of longevity to it.
Yeah, that's cool. I was going to ask how you got into the sport, but I think that question's already been answered.
Yeah, literally just through family, just following mum around when I was younger. I used to always jump on the podium with her when she was at a local competition, national title, whatever it was. I used to always just follow her around, and just really interested in the sport from a young age. Unfortunately, my sister wasn't interested, so my parents didn't really push her. But my parents saw that I was really interested when I was younger, and they said, "Look, do you want to take this seriously?" After doing it for about a year just for fun, and I said, like, yeah, why not? I've got potential to actually be decent in the sport, so I started taking it seriously. Started training after school, training on the weekends, and in a couple of years was able to make the national team on the junior level, and went from there.
Cool, awesome. And so are you and your mum in like the exact same category of shooting?
So we're both in pistol events, but she's in the women, so she competed.
Yeah.
She was really good at 10-meter air pistol, as well as 25-meter sport pistol, which is a women's only event, where I purely focus on the 25-meter rapid fire pistol, which is basically like the men's version of sport pistol, just different rules.
Can you, and for someone that literally knows nothing about shooting, can you give me like a very a simple rundown of all the different events of shooting?
Yeah, so shooting at the Olympics is broken down into 3 categories: shotgun, rifle, and pistol.
Yeah.
Rifle and pistol, we both shoot at targets, and obviously we want to try hit the bullseye, the 10 ring,
Yeah.
and the target's going to go like 10 ring, 9 ring, so on and so on. It gets bigger and bigger, so you kind of picture like a
Yeah.
archery target,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously we want to hit the middle as much as we can. Shotgun, they shoot at clay targets. So shotgun is a clay target flies through the sky and they have to shoot that. So there's a hit or miss, where for us it's based off a score. So in my event, rapid fire, there's 5 targets 25 meters away, and we have to shoot 5 shots within a time series. So basically, we get 5 shots to shoot in 8 seconds for the first one. So the targets go green. There's a light on top of the target and it goes green like a goad light. And we lift up the gun and go bang, 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 bang. Shoot 5 targets. Obviously, we want to try hit the bullseye every time, and that's 5 shots done. And we do that 60 times. Not 60 times. We do that. So it's 60 shots altogether.
Yeah.
So we do it. I can't do the math here. Yeah, 12 times. Yeah. But it gets harder and harder. So the first 2 times are in 8 seconds. The next 2 times are in 6 seconds. The next 2 times are in 4 seconds.
Okay.
So the 4 seconds is where it gets hard. So yeah, 4 seconds to lift up the gun, shoot 5 targets, and yeah.
So is it like attempts, or they literally just count all of your scores?
Just whatever you get is whatever you get. No attempts, no nothing. So my event, the good thing about my event, what I love about it is that it's quick. It's doesn't take too long. You come to the firing line, they say load. You have a minute to load the magazine. Attention, pull the gun down, and then when the green light goes, you shoot. Bang, 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 and then you go again. So you do it 6 times, and you're good to go. Go have lunch.
Interesting. So you pretty much like. So it wouldn't take. So within like 10 minutes, you're already finished.
Probably like 20 minutes, yeah, because they give you like a bit of preparation time. You set up the bay, like a warm up time, stuff like that. Because they give you a minute in between. That's like a resting period, a reset kind of thing. So it takes about 20 minutes. And that's why it's called rapid fire. Like it's all done pretty quick. Where 10-meter air pistol, the other event that I do compete in, but I'm unfortunately not very good at it, is 60 shots on the one target, aiming for the 10 ring every time, bullseye. So just 60 consecutive shots. You have to do it in an hour and 15 minutes, and you just load 1 pellet at a time. It is air pistol though, so it's not. It's done with we have a little tank on the gun, and it's like a little air pellet, kind of like when you shoot air rifles as a kid. Yeah. Similar thing. So you just shoot air pellets into the target 60 times, and whoever has the most 10s by the end of it gets the best score.
Is it always inside or can it be outside?
10-meter air pistol is usually inside because it's a bit easier. You can set it up. It's only 10 meters away, so you can. I mean, there have been ranges in the world that they just set up on like a basketball court or like inside a gymnasium. So, but with my event, because it's 25 meters, you do need a bit of room. So there's usually a roof over your head and a roof over the targets, and then there might be a bit of sunlight just in between.
So is there any? I'm assuming then there's not really any like wind coming in to like sway you compared to being like fully outside.
No, not necessarily.
Controlled.
Yeah. Look, we do occasionally get because sometimes ranges are built and they're kind of built so they turn into like a wind tunnel. So sometimes we do get like a wind, but it wouldn't affect the shooting itself. It would just affect your body. So if you're trying to hold the gun out straight and your wind is pushing you across, sometimes it will affect that. But that's just part of the conditions. Can't change anything about that. But it wouldn't affect the shooting itself unless it affects your body in the way you hold the gun.
Do you feel like once you do your first like couple of rounds, you just like get in the zone and then just like smash it all out, or do you reckon are you like in every single rest period when like you're loading your gun, you're kind of like all the nerves go away, or are you pretty much like trying to battle?
Yeah, it's honestly it's a bit of everything. I'm a type of athlete where I try to play the cards that I'm dealt with. So, when I was competing at the Olympics, obviously my nerves were at an all-time high, and I just didn't. At the time, it was really a bit of a struggle to battle those nerves because they all came all of a sudden. So you kind of just play the cards you dealt with, and you move on from there. So there are times where I try to come to the range, I try to come to my competition already like ready, good to go, pumped up, You know, I'm just like, I'm ready to compete. You know, I'm zoned in. So when I start, I don't need to warm up because I already warmed up. I'm already in the zone and I'm shooting the 10 ring every time.
Yeah.
And then as I go, I do a bit of a reset because, all right, you've done that round. Time for the next one. Time for the next one. Especially if you're shooting well, you do have a tendency to potentially, I guess,
Have the confidence.
lower. Yeah, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? I guess you have the tendency to relax a bit because you're already doing so well. So you'll mentally be like, all right, this is easy. I just need to do the same thing. I need to do the same thing. Where that's not the case. You actually have to try harder for the next round and go forward and kind of just keep going. That's a really common saying that my coach says, just keep going forward. You go forward. It happened. You forget about whatever happened, you know, whether it was good or bad, and you keep going forward. And that's the approach I think that's really healthy for shooters.
And I guess I was going to ask this later, but what do you think? How does it compare from when you were kind of competing at a school level or you know at high school and the kind of the junior level comps versus like the Olympics in terms of like dealing with all the pressure?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're at a junior level, you tend to, it was my experience as well. I loved going to junior competitions for the social side of things. Was friends with a lot of juniors around the world. So when I competed with them, the pressure was not against them or anything, but it was for myself. You know, obviously I tried to shoot the best score I could, and I was kind of battling myself. Because shooting's such a mental sport where if you do one shot that's really bad, it can throw you off for the rest of the match. But it's about learning to deal with that and learning to move on.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of similarities. So from a junior level and Olympic level, you're battling that side of things. You're battling yourself and you're trying to keep up the routine of shooting well, and you're just doing the best you can. But when you're in the Olympics, it's the Olympics. It's the pinnacle of the sport. You know, you win an Olympic medal in shooting, you're one of the best in the world that's done it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like it doesn't, and the Olympics will not compare ever to any other competition. World champs, World Cups, nothing. It's the pinnacle of the sport, and that's where you want to win.
Yeah.
I would much rather in my career take an Olympic gold medal than 3 or 4 world championships medals. And that's honestly that's probably my opinion. Some people might disagree. But give me an Olympic gold medal any day of the week.
Yeah. And how did you find the Olympics? Like experience compared to the other ones, or like you kind of went into it feeling like it was a world championships in a way, or was like completely surreal?
It was such an interesting experience because, again, the Tokyo Olympics were during COVID, so it was very in and out. So I didn't really actually experience the full effect of the Olympics and what the Olympics give to you. So, you know, the stories that my mum used to tell me of the atmosphere during in the village, and the atmosphere of going to watch all the sports and just being in that Olympic atmosphere. We unfortunately didn't get to experience that as much because of the restrictions we had with COVID. The team was in and out, so we had to get there within 5 days of our event and leave within 48 hours of our event. So it was unfortunately, and shooting is one of those sports where if you're only in one event, it's only over 2 days. You got 2 halves and that's it. So in and out. Where if you're in maybe swimming or athletics, you're competing multiple events, you have a bit of time to soak in the atmosphere. So unfortunately, I was in a position where it felt like just a competition where I had to come in, shoot, and leave.
That's annoying.
But which was unfortunately disappointing. And I think this is one of my biggest drivers for Paris Olympics, because I want to experience that full Olympic atmosphere. But in saying that though, the village atmosphere is great. Meeting other athletes is great. Seeing the other events in the shooting sport was amazing. Wearing the green and gold with my friends, and being able to share that green and gold with my mum as well. She didn't compare to Tokyo Olympics, but she's competed in previous Olympics, and having a house where our basement is just full of these Olympic luggages. It's like a cool thing. Like we have to keep it in the basement because there's nowhere else in the house. Like my mom's got so many different suitcases full of Olympic clothes, and for me to be able to contribute to that as well is like a really cool feeling.
Carrying the torch forward.
Yeah, exactly right.
That would have pissed me off though. I've been working really hard for ages. I'm only there for like a few days. So
Yeah, it was one of those things. We came in prepared.
How many days were you there overall?
Oh, it was like probably like a week only. But in saying that, we got there. I think we weren't able to train the next day. Train day after that. Train day after that. Compete. Next day, relax, and then that night go home.
Okay, so it's still like
And then
you had a relatively like solid amount, though, I guess, but not the full experience.
no, unfortunately, not the full experience. A lot of people, they come and they stay for the rest of the Olympics, or they get there early and compete earlier, and then stay for the rest. It's a big ordeal for some people. Unfortunately, it went by just too quick. It was definitely too quick, unfortunately.
Were you one of the first people to go home? Like, what were you like the first one there? Or were you more towards the end of the Olympic Games?
No, so my shooting event was towards the end of the shooting events. So we were there the same time as swimming, and we left around the same time as the swimming team, for example. So I was lucky enough to, after the Olympics, I was put in Sydney for quarantine. So I had my own apartment, which was nice. But people that left a day earlier, they had to go to Darwin and quarantine there for 2 weeks, and they were there with like the big Australian team.
Yeah.
So we were, I guess, one of the first people to leave.
Yeah.
But every day someone had to leave.
Yeah. And I guess kind of reverting back to kind of like your schooling days. So when you said that you decided to take the sport more seriously, like what was that program looking like at school? I'm sure it was probably the same, maybe from like 7 to 12. You said you started when you were 13, so it was pretty much the same program all the way through to finishing, or what was that?
So when I first started the sport, in my first year, it was just for a bit of a fun, bit of a laugh. I went maybe every weekend, every second weekend, just competed with mum. Shot the gun, shot at a target, just kind of having some fun with it. And I think that's what my parents wanted me to do first, is to have fun with the sport and see if I actually enjoy it. Because if I didn't enjoy the sport, what's the point of trying and training? And then after a year, my parents and the national coach at the time, who was training my mum at the time, was saying, sorry, someone's calling me.
No worries.
That's fine. Well, good. Sorry, it's just popped up on my computer. There we go. So the national coach at the time was telling my parents, look, Serge actually has decent potential. Like, speak with him, see if he wants to take the sport seriously. Spoke to my parents, and they said, look, while you're young, there's so many options out there for you as a junior. There's junior World Cups internationally, there's youth Olympics, there's so many competitions that you can go to, like, while you're still in school, and we'll support you. Why not? And I said, yeah, seriously, like, why not? And then I started going to state competitions around the state, just opens around the countryside and around the city as well. Started getting good, started making the state team. I started training, and from when I made the state team and started shooting on a national level, like competing at the nationals, winning titles at the nationals, that's when my training started getting a bit more specific in the event. And
that was what, like year 9, 10, like
that would have
16?
been that would have been around that 15, 16 mark, because 2015 was my very first junior World Cup, where I came away with a bronze medal in my event, which I was like super proud of. But that was still one of those years that was very it was a growth year. I grew a lot in the sport, and I grew a lot in my technical skills, because a year later I finished with 17 more points in my event and came away with a silver medal, with a much stronger final, much stronger competitors in the final. And that's, that was in 2016. So 2016 onwards is when I started taking the sport very, very seriously. And I competed at the 2016 selections for the Rio Olympics, just with the idea of this is what this will be like to make the Olympics. I tried my hardest, and I knew realistically I wasn't able to be selected for the Olympics, just because my skill set wasn't there yet. There are a lot better shooters out there, but when I competed against them, and I shot what I did, and I competed with my scores, I said, okay, this is something that I know I can make the next Olympics. I know I can make Olympics, more than one Olympics in the future, and I know I can make the junior Olympic team. Sorry, not junior Olympic, the junior World Cup team, senior World Cup team, World Championship teams. I know I can make those. So from 2016 onwards, 2017 onwards, is when I started taking the sport quite seriously.
Yeah. And so how
And,
old were you? How old were you in the 2016 trials?
so I would have been 18 at the time.
So you're like pretty much like just fresh out of school, / in year 12.
Yeah, because I finished school in 2015. So I would have been 18, 19 at the time. Because I turned 18 later in the year in October. So yeah, I would have been 18 at the time. And before 18, from like 13 onwards, my first year was kind of having fun with it. My first couple of years were having fun with it, but I was still making the state team and still making the nationals and going around the country to compete.
Yeah.
And I watched the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and that kind of inspired me to think, I can take this a bit more seriously. I can actually, potentially be decent. And then when the 2016 selections came around and I was still progressing, still getting better and better, I was getting better each year because of just consistent training and, obviously having a lot of help from my parents as well. I was really advantaged in a sense of I grew up within the sport. So I was really lucky and privileged to be in that position. So in a weird way, I took advantage of that. Didn't want to, let that slip, and I took advantage of that position that I was in, which is probably a little bit selfish on my end. But that's part of the sport. And yeah, I just took advantage of that. Took on what my parents told me. Took on what my parents gave me in advice, training. Did everything I could, and progressed really well for someone in the sport. I grew quite quickly, and within I say I grew quite quickly, but I realize now it was like 5 years to get to a point where I was competing well on an international level. And in all honesty, in Olympic sport, that's quite quick. It takes people 10 years to get to an Olympic, like to shoot a score that's a standard Olympic score. That's that's a score that's respectable at the Olympics. And even then, 10 years is still very impressive to do that. So I managed to do it. I managed to compete at a level that was acceptable internationally within 5 years, which is impressive in my opinion. Yeah.
Cool. And so it seems like the Olympic trial for you was like, you were a bit off obviously making it, but you were close enough that it was like a big confidence boost for like the next 4 years ahead. You were like, all right, I can definitely make
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, I went in there thinking to myself, look, I'm not going to make the Olympics. I'm just going to give it my all though. But I want to see what it's like. I want to see leading into this competition what I need to do and how I need to do it.
And who were the top shooters? Who were the Olympic shooters for 2016? Like how far off were you at that point in time?
I wasn't far off. I was actually second after the first I got selected. However, if I, for example, beat him, then I would have been, in my opinion, I probably still wouldn't have been selected because I was quite young in my sporting athlete life, if that makes sense. Like in that career, I was a bit immature in that sense, and it could have been a situation where if I went to the Olympics, it would have ruined me mentally, because shooting is such a mentally driven sport.
Yeah,
that it could have just kind of ruined my would have been like a peak too early type situation.
Yeah, okay.
And it would have been one of those things as well where I wouldn't have peaked too early. I would have just peaked early in Australia, and then compared internationally, it would have just been very hard, very difficult.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, and the shooter that went in 2016, it was a shooter named David Chapman, who was one of the greatest shooters in Australia. Represented Australia in a lot of Olympics. Won a Commonwealth Games medal in 2014 Glasgow. One of the best shooters in my event in particular in Australia.
Yeah, and so like diving in more deeply, like when you're at school, maybe like year 10, 11, 12, when you're more like in the peak of your training at school, leading up to those kind of Olympic qualifiers, like what was your schedule on like during the week? So like from Monday to Sunday, like kind of reaching back to the memory bank, like how was your week structured?
Yeah, it was honestly just if I trained after school, mum would pick me up. We would drive to the range together, and I would get depending on the sunlight as well, because we were training outside. There's a roof, so it was harder to see the targets if it was dark. And my range had a curfew of 6 p.m. So we'll get to after school. Mum would pick me up at 3:20, go straight to the range, get there by 3:45. We were fortunate enough to live not far from the range, and I'd be able to train from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. And it was just like that every, not every day, but about 3-4 days a week. And that's probably, sorry, including the weekend as well. I did a lot of training on the weekend where we had a lot more time. But I would just, and I would probably, we're doing gym or some kind of physical exercise in the morning before school. Where either go for a run or work out at home with dad before school, and during school, obviously did my studies, did everything I needed to do, and then competed, trained, and after school. I will be honest though, I probably didn't take my schooling as seriously as I would have liked to, just because I wanted to train after school instead of do my schooling, and I wanted to compete overseas instead of doing my schooling. So there's a lot of kids out there that school is more important than sport, which is totally understandable. I agree for sure to an extent that, you have to focus on your studies and you have to focus on your schooling. So sport may take a sacrifice, but it's just about, if you really want to make it in the sport, it's about trying to find some compromise and not necessarily cutting school back, but more in a sense of what can you do instead.
Fair. And so from what that, I guess you probably trained in the field, like shooting, probably maybe like 3 or 4 times during the week, then like on a Saturday for 2 hours, and maybe had like 1 day off during the week of shooting, like maybe on Thursday or something. And then maybe, so was it every morning that you were doing like either cardio or strength work, or was it like kind of the same, like you had like 1 morning off during the week to kind of like chill out and sleep in, or?
No, probably not every morning, but there was a lot of times where, I mean, like at the time I think about it, like before school, we didn't really have to get up that early. Like the bus was at 8:15. There's a lot, you can do a lot before 8:15. So I was always getting up at 6 o'clock anyway, just naturally. Went for a small walk, went for a run, did something, kind of just because I was kind of bored in the morning. So went for a small walk around the block, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Got ready for school, breakfast, everything. Left the house by 8, got the bus 8:15, and went from there.
And then Saturdays, so I'm sure you probably have like a 2-hour-ish block of shooting at least on like a Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday was obviously a much bigger block, so I would get to the range by 8:30, start shooting at 9 a.m, probably be done by about lunchtime.
Sure.
And there was a more intense block of training and more intense block of shooting specific exercises.
And then Sundays just chill out day.
Yeah, Sunday would always be a relaxed day.
Okay. And I don't know, this is just me, but I know this is completely different, but like golf, for example, after I've hit like a few rounds of golf, my brain's like exhausted. Like, I don't know, like focusing on like trying to hit it at like the right angle or whatever. Do you find like after shooting for a certain amount of time, your like brain just becomes exhausted, like you can't do it anymore? Like
exactly.
you lose your focus?
Yeah, 100%. And not necessarily lose your focus. You kind of just, because you're using your brain and your mental energy so much that you're just depleted. It's like you just ran out of petrol. And shooting is like I said before, it's a mentally driven sport. I've had training camps in the past where we go to the Australian Institute of Sport, we train in the morning, get back by lunchtime, and we all have an hour nap, like just because we're so exhausted in the morning. And then we go and do our second training, and then we will do potentially gym or recovery after that. And then we're all asleep snoring by 8 p.m. Like we're all just so mentally exhausted, because it's I think shooting is very comparative to golf. I think it's a lot of the similar principles and a lot of the similar aspects of like the mental side of things. I think it's very similar. Same with archery, golf, shooting, those sports where it's
So when you if I'm thinking like a 2-hour block, right? Like for me personally, I would, maybe this is, I obviously don't shoot or play golf that much, but after like 40 minutes, I'd be zapped. Like, what do you have like like little breaks, like 10-minute breaks in like a 2-hour block, or do you have like a bit of like a snack or something? Like, how do you like sustain your energy over like that prolonged period of time?
Yeah, and literally all that. So there would be shooting's one of those things as well because they actually can be physically demanding as well. Sometimes we do this exercise where we grab the gun in our left hand, like we turn our body around because our body is face side on, and we point in direction like this.
Yeah.
So what we would do, we'll just grab our left hand and switch the body around.
Okay.
It's almost like we're using the other side of our brain. We wouldn't
Yeah.
shoot with our left hand, but we would just do the exercise with your left side, and that kind of
Yeah.
like not only recovers your right side, but it also just kind of recovers your brain a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you would also potentially do exercises where I would be shooting, and then to kind of trick my brain and to train it a bit more, I would then grab some like stress balls or something and juggle. And that'd be like in between my breaks, or I would
the
throw
hula
a tennis
hoops.
ball.
Hula hoops. I saw one of your Instagram.
Yes, literally, yeah. And that's like I would hula hoop, or I would get a tennis ball and throw it against the wall and kind of do like reactive exercises, and that's kind of not only training my mental, I guess, focus, my mental energy. It's also just kind of switching the brain off from the shooting side and turning my brain off for something else.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Mm.
And so and then kind of going specifically into like those shooting sessions that you do. So I mean, I'm sure they probably wouldn't like differ too much from maybe when you're at school, unless I'm wrong. But like, how would your shooting sessions be? Is it literally just you, obviously, like just shooting at the target, like smashing that out, or do you do like specific drills in your sessions, like?
Yeah. So it's all very specific. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can be very specific, or you can be like more technical. So leading up to this competition right now, I was shooting a lot of I guess score specific. I was doing a lot of score specific exercises where I was focusing on how do we get that score better. So I was doing exercises where we would be in competition mode. The coach would say we'll do everything like a competition, and I'll kind of meant to prepare myself to be in competition mode.
Mhm.
And we would do like a score specific exercise, but sometimes in the off season I would do exercises where we increase strength and we want to increase our durability a bit. So we would do, for example, an exercise where we'd shoot a shot and we'd hold our arm out there for 20 to 30 seconds to build up strength and resistance in our back and arms and shoulders. Or we would kind of just step away from shooting a bit more and focus more on like gym exercises. So instead of doing 4 days a week at the range and 1 day a week in the gym, we'll maybe do 2 days a week in the range and 3 days a week in the gym.
Okay.
Kind of stuff like that to build up a bit more of that strength. And as well as there's been times where I've had sessions where I'm just sitting at home and I either meditate or I do visualization, and I would, on the range, for example, I would grab my gun and kind of just close my eyes, grab the gun and just visualize myself holding that gun, visualize myself bringing the gun to the target, pulling the trigger, what you would classify as a perfect shot, what that would be. I'd be visualizing that because that's like a big visualize. That's a really important and really strong like a exercise that you can do for your brain.
Yeah. Interesting. And so what was like you said you want to focus on competition, you go into like competition mode. So what does that session actually look like? Like how does that
So it would most likely be a lot more shooting, where we would just like you said before, just smash it out. Just shoot at the targets and just get the bullseye every time and just build up that confidence, where instead of just kind of just doing drills, where we would do, so we have this thing in shooting called dry fire, which is where we kind of have the gun, we cock it, but then it goes like click because there's no bullet in there. So it does everything that it does without the actual bullet. So the way you can picture that is like doing everything you can with footy, like doing a lead up with kicking a footy without the ball itself, or like doing what you can and kicking the ball, but you're not kicking into any goals. You're just kicking it straight.
Why do
so
you?
Don't,
okay. What? So you're saying that you still kick the ball, but you move the goalpost, or there's no ball there altogether?
It's like a bit of both. It's either there's no ball there altogether, and you're just doing the lead up, and you picture yourself kicking without the ball, or you can just kick into nothing, no goalposts, and there's no feedback from the score.
And what
And
benefit do you get from that, do you think?
so personally, for me, it's you're focusing on the technique, and you're focusing on what the process is to actually get the score. And then when you're doing those competition mode exercises later, that's when you're getting that score feedback. Where the dry fire exercises is you're purely focusing on what your body's doing and what you're doing, and you're getting the feedback of like you did it. All right, how does that feel? Did that process look right? Did that technically look right? Did it feel good? Kind of thing.
When you do the gym sessions, obviously shooting's like an upper body sport. Is it mostly, well, I guess you said the other day that it's like kind of like a base building, like you want to have like a strong base and you have like a stable body. So do you do
I think
full body, or is it more like upper body because you're holding a gun, obviously, or?
Yeah, well, it's honestly, I would say it's honestly everything. Like, but the main thing is that you're strength building. You're not trying to build muscle. You're actually trying to build strength. So, for example, like deeper lunges, deeper squats, really exercise that makes you really grounded into the floor, grounded into the ground. So, deadlifts, squats, like a trap bar where you're trying to pull up. Those kind of grounds where you're really holding that stability as well in your legs, your core strength, and your, like you said, like the base. They're the exercises that are really important, especially in my event, because my event has a lot of body movement in it as well. And I'm staying in one position and I'm moving my body. So you obviously want to be as stable and as grounded to the ground, to the floor as possible. You want to be like a statue. And the way you build up that statue is not from just building up upper body, but it's from building up the legs and your leg strength and your core strength to really be grounded into the earth.
Yeah.
Like I picture myself as, I say myself like be grounded into the earth, because I'm literally just picturing myself like my legs are like not just on the floor, but actually like they're through the floor. It's like a mental exercise.
You're a tree. You're a tree.
Yeah, literally, you're just a tree. Like you're just standing there as strong as possible. You have to be as strong as a tree. And then you're building up that strength in your shoulders and your back and your arms to hold out that weight like of the gun. And it's not necessarily heavy. It's just like you're following through, you're pulling the trigger, and you're with the recoil as well. You're making sure that you're strong throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
And that's why I compare it to golf, because with the golf, like how many times have you had the perfect swing, and then literally in the last, you're 2 millimeters off the ball, and that's where you stuff it up, and that's when it's like, yep, and then you slice the ball. So it's literally that exact same thing where you could be pulling the trigger, holding the gun perfectly. You pull, and then something happens. Like you twitch, you don't follow through, you bend the wrist, something happens, and it just ruins the shot.
Okay.
So with the gym side of things, you obviously want to have a good cardio to be strong inside your body. You want to be able to breathe right. You want to be able to slow your heart rate down, and you just want to be fit in general. You want to have general fitness there, and then you just want to have strength. You just want to be able to hold. You want to be able to hold the weight there for 5 minutes straight, and just hold it, and not shake, and not be like a little branch. You want to be a strong, like you're saying, like a strong tree. My mum used to always tell me, you just got to, like she used to say, like your arms stick. Your arm is a stick. You just out there and you're pulling a trigger, and that's it. You've got that whole strength behind you.
Do you think like internationally all shooters like go to the gym and everything, or do you think that's like something that
100%?
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think some of the best shooters in the world, when they're in the off season, they're gymming it every day. They go to the gym every day. They take care of their body. They make sure, and that's a principle I've had myself. I personally believe that I could probably, not just me, any experienced shooter, they could not shoot for a couple of years, and if they kept up their general fitness and they kept up their strength building, they would come back in the sport, and obviously still not be the same as they were in the sport, but it would take them, they would be able to get to that level they were before a lot quicker.
And do you find that, are you doing, obviously, I think you said that you're obviously doing more strength based gym rather than like circuits or whatnot, but like what's like your kind of like for your general strengths, unless they're like very different? Are they mainly, is it like low reps, high weight, or is it more like high volume, low weight? Like
We would say more it's like high
heavy.
volume, high weight. So, but like it might be 4 sets of 8 reps, but with a higher weight because we obviously want to increase that strength as well. But it's a strength where I could probably potentially do 10 reps or 12 reps of it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But we obviously want to be feeling that resistance as well.
Yeah.
Because if it's a weight where I could do 30 to 40 reps of it, what's the point? I'm not actually doing anything.
Mm.
So we.
Sorry, you go.
Sorry.
You go. Yeah.
No, I was just going to keep going about that. So what were we going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, so, and yes, like kind of more specifically, so what general weight do you think you'd be doing? Like maybe like 100 kilos or something for trap bar or bench?
Yeah. So I think my deadlift, because I haven't deadlifted in a while, because I like to sometimes leading up to a competition, I like to lower the weight, just increase in case there's potential injury or anything like that. Or I might just like twist my back the wrong way or something. So, so personally for me, like with the deadlifts, when I was doing them with the trap bar, not the trap bar, sorry, with the normal bar, I was, from what I remember, it was about 90 kilos to 100 kilos. Yeah, and they would be reps of 8. And maybe four sets. But for me, it was also more about having really good technique with it and a bit slower as well. So you kind of want to feel the burn in your body instead of just doing it, like just yanking it and doing it, and then you step off. But you actually want to do it a bit slower but properly.
Yeah,
because I believe that's personally how you feel it a bit more as well.
And nowadays, do you do how much do you train like at the moment? Like I guess so. Obviously, Paris is like your big goal. I'm assuming as the next big goal. Like how much are you training at the moment? What's your current schedule like?
Yeah, so it is, my current schedule is built a little bit about work, around work, because work is obviously pretty stable with my schedule. But I just increased my training volumes early mornings, late at nights. So leading up to World Champs, I was training maybe 5 days a week, probably having Monday and Sunday off. But potentially I would train Sunday as well as like a good day. So probably, actually, sorry, I lied. Probably 2 days off during the week. So maybe Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning train. And then I would train a bigger session on Saturday, bigger session on Sunday. And leading up to competition, you just increase that training load. Post competition, decrease it, and then just focus on gym, general fitness a bit more. And then coming up to competition, just increase that training load again.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, so is it the same kind of schedule that you had at school, that you would do gym and cardio in the morning at the moment, and then you're doing shooting at night times, or is it like shootings in the morning?
So I've kind of tried to take advantage of the situation I'm in, where I've joined a range in the city because I work in the city. So, and this range is I'm fortunate enough that they have spotlights on their targets. So I get here at 6 a.m., train from 6 till 8 in the morning, and the sun rises around, let's say 7 a.m. So before that, I'm able to turn the spotlights on, and they have lights on the target, so I can see the targets from where I'm standing. And from train from about 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. in the mornings, and then I would go to work and start at work at 8:30, and then come home and then do my fitness at night. So when I get home around 6 p.m. Before dinner, I would do my fitness, and I try to do at least 40 minutes of whatever the fitness is, 40 to 45 minutes or whatever the fitness is minimum.
So who gives you your programs? Do you have like a
coach? I think, I do have a personal trainer through the Victorian Institute of Sport. I'm lucky enough to be a sponsored athlete from the Victorian Institute of Sport. So I speak to a strength and conditioning coach there. She's great. She knows a lot about the sport, and she's really built up my strength for the sport as well. She made me feel really strong in my body for the sport, which sometimes, like looking in the past, I think that's something that I was probably lacking in previous experience. As well as, if I'm not working with her, I think I've gained enough experience in the sport to know what's important for me and what's not important for me. And the important factor for me right now is to get my cardio up, my get my breathing a bit better, just get my fitness up generally, and then just keep building that strength. Lunges, chin ups, push ups, kind of like body strength exercises, as well as like those grounded exercises that I was telling you about before.
Yeah. So, and is it generally, so like thinking about your schedule now, so you're, yeah, obviously a couple of days off during the week, obviously big block on the weekend, and then like your gym stuff. What's like is it usually like 3 sessions, then 2 cardio, and then like one of them's upper body, one of them's lower body, one of them's upper body? Like what's kind of the muscle groups you're doing in each, or is it just like full body for all of them?
No, it's usually just full body because I never liked to split it up just because I didn't want to feel uneven the next day or, kind of just have that feeling. I always liked having each muscle touched on in my body. I would always split up my circuits, I would always be supersetting. So I would do deadlifts and then I would do deadlifts in one set and then the next set would be a shoulder press or lat pull down. So a lot of pushing and pulling exercises, something that I was been really keen on now. So I would literally, I would do the deadlifts with the bar, and then I'll just step across the bar and I would lift up kettlebells and do a tricep curl lift ups. Yeah. So it was a lot of pushing and pulling exercises, and I like to just focus on everything.
Yeah.
That way I can just touch on everything instead of like me personally. I think maybe that's just my ADHD brain, and I like to do a bit of everything instead of just focusing on one. That's why I chose rapid fire, because it's quick, do it, and it's done.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. And I guess more now into like the kind of recovery / nutrition realm of things. So I'm assuming basically like all athletes, you just like kind of try and eat clean, like you're having like any diet specifically or anything like that.
Yeah, I think because shooting's a sport where it's all based off how you feel on the day. So what makes you feel shit in a day? Sorry, can I swear, or is that?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no. What will make you feel shit in a day? Eating a KFC zinger box, just eating fried food that gives you no nutritional value and just makes you feel crap. So, and it's going to make you feel crap. You obviously got to compete crap, because not only are you feeling like your body's feeling crap, but it's also, in my personal belief, it's also putting you in a bad mental state where you're just not right. Where if you can eat, fruit and vegetables and good meat, and you're getting your proteins, you're getting your carbohydrates, you're drinking plenty of water. I love drinking water. I try to drink about, not like just out of habit. I try to drink about 4 liters a day. Like I drink probably like 5 or 6 of these Yeti bottles a day, and that's about 800 mils. I drink a lot of water. I like to stay hydrated because I have this weird thing where my dad told me when I was younger, and I kind of just believed it. Not sure if it's true or not, but I think when you drink plenty of water, it hydrates the brain as well and keeps you mentally more focused. Doesn't leave you as hazy. So I think as well, so just during the shooting season and when I'm in competition mode, I like to just eat good food and food that makes me happy. I know that won't make me feel crap. And so, in saying that, like when we go away for competition and we don't have access to home cooked meals and we have to eat out, I love to eat sushi. I like to eat Vietnamese food because I feel like it's cleaner. I feel like it's just a bit better for me than very heavy food like burgers or fried food. Don't get me wrong. I love those foods as well. I'm a big foodie. Like I love all foods.
Yeah.
But it's just foods that makes you feel lighter, makes you feel like you've got energy.
Mm-hmm. Do you find like because from what I recall, kind of like fats are important for your brain and everything, but then I'm also sure, I don't know, like do you like leading up to a how does your nutrition change kind of like leading up to a competition versus like in training, or is it like relatively the same all the way through?
Nah, I think shooting is one of those sports where, because we aren't exhausting ourselves physically, we don't really need to focus on like the macros or anything, because we're not doing a lot of energy expenditure. It's all mental expenditure. So, a big thing for me is obviously being mentally right and feeling mentally good. There's studies that show that a lot of caffeine before you just a lot of caffeine in general, like increases anxiety in your body. So, I mean, I drink coffee, obviously, like, during work and stuff, but I don't really drink it in competition. I drink coffee for the enjoyment, not for the actual like need of, I need to wake up. Um, so when I go away for competition, if I'm at a nice cafe and I'll get a nice coffee, that'll make me feel happy, and I know that's gonna brighten up my day. So it's one of those things that as long as you're having a balanced diet, you're fine. You're all good. You do have the healthy fats, you do have the lean meat, you do have the good carbs, but yeah, and all that balanced diet, as well as before competition. So for example, a really good example of this actually is I competed at a World Cup in Indonesia earlier this year. And it was in Jakarta in January. So it was super hot, super humid, 90% humidity, 35 plus degrees every day. You'd walk out of the hotel and you're already drenched. We had to wear like 3 or 4 shirts a day just to not feel soaked, So it was, and that, like, because you're sweating so much, your body's actually losing a lot of energy. So by the middle of the day, when the final was happening and our second half was happening, I was already mentally exhausted. And so I needed to really, put energy into my body that would help me combat that. So, make sure I had the right electrolytes in my body, as well as slow energy releasing foods in the morning or the night before. So my breakfast, funnily enough, we were staying at a hotel where it was one of the greatest breakfast buffets I've ever seen. I saw sashimi there. There were fresh tuna, fresh salmon, dumplings, like a guy cooking noodles in front of you, omelet station, fresh soups, and it was just an amazing breakfast. And my breakfast before competition was just rye bread with a boiled egg on top, and then maybe another piece of toast with like butter and jam on top of that as well, and a cup of tea. It was just super boring. But I know that food, it was the right carbs, the right protein, bit of like sugar with it as well, like with the jam. And it just made me feel good, and it made me feel energized for the rest of the day. And obviously I would just keep up my water intake, and yeah, it made me feel good. So
Do you find in comps you get a bit nervous and don't eat as much, or you generally try to like still keep that up?
I think over the years it's kind of changed for me. So when I first started, my mum was the type of person, she never ate before a competition. She just didn't like to eat. She was always nervous and she hated eating. She would never eat. So the night before, she would eat a salad. She would stay in a hotel room because she liked to just read a book or chill and watch TV, play on her iPad, whatever it was. She wouldn't go out for dinner. She would just buy veggies in the hotel room, make a salad, eat that. Next morning, wouldn't eat. Maybe a bit of bowl of yogurt or something, something very small, and just compete the whole day, being hungry but having some water and just doing that. Maybe like 1 can of tuna, and that's it. Where I used to be like that, and I kind of got to a point where I was just thinking, no, like I'm super hungry, like I want to have something. So I'll probably be snacking a lot during the day.
Yeah.
Like I would always take a lot of tuna with me, take a lot of nuts, take a lot of bars, music bars with me. I would, I'd steal a lot of bread from the breakfast buffets and just take that. And I'd steal a lot of food from breakfast buffets, to be fair, like a lot of fruits and a lot of, I'd make a lot of sandwiches in them. I always wrap it up in the serviettes and just pop it in my pocket or something, and kind of just eat off that.
Yeah. Do you have like because I don't know what it is for me, but that's why I'm studying or whatnot. Like I don't know, like a bit of chocolate or something will completely boost my energy. Do you have a particular food that you have like during comps that you have that like kind of like revitalize you, or like do you have like a sneaky like sugar hit when like you're feeling down or exhausted, or nothing really like that?
Yeah, no, I've never really had anything like that. For me, it's always just been drinking heaps of water. Like I can just scull a whole bottle of water like no worries. And in the morning, like I love eating boring in the morning, and it would just be a boiled egg, like not even a soft boiled, probably like hard boiled and rye bread, something like that. Like I love rye bread. I prefer brown bread over white bread. It would just be something boring like that. And then during the day, maybe like at competitions, tuna and rice is the way to go for me. It's just easy. As long as there's a microwave there, microwave pack of rice, can of tuna in there, good to go. That'd be my lunch. Be easy. fill yourself up with it. It was all good. And maybe I'll throw in some veggies. Depending on the training camp or the competition, I'll buy like a pack of frozen broccoli, defrost it, and put it in there as well. I kind of just like to eat food that was filling and healthy. I could eat probably like a little bit less of as well because broccoli is quite a filling food. Rice quite a filling food. So I could eat a little bit less of that. It would fill me up for like at least 2-3 hours, and in that block where I needed to be full, and I was all good.
Sweet. And I know you said that when we called the other day, you had like you liked fish oil. Do you have like what's your kind of your supplements? Do you have anything other than fish oil, or is that pretty much like everything you have?
Yeah. So, funnily enough, I actually cannot tell you the name of the fish oil tablets.
Yeah.
I don't remember them. But it was never anything fancy. It was just I kind of when I was younger, I hated eating fish, hated eating salmon, and my parents were like, you know, you need fish oil in your diet. You need it. You need the good fats. So they kind of made me have a lot of fish oil tablets when I was younger. So I've kind of stepped off them now though, and I have been eating a lot of fish in my diet, and a lot of salmon. So for me, I'd rather get the nutrition supplement in the food rather than on the side. However, True Protein is my go-to when it comes to protein. Not only is it approved for athletes, like HASTA approved, and so it's safe to have if, during drug tests. But it's good for you. It's delicious, and it's just an easy breakfast as well as yeah, just a good way to like if I'm training a lot during the gym, good way to recover is True Protein's my go-to.
Nice. And yeah, like vitamin D, like magnesium, like do you have anything else, or pretty much just
No,
like
no, I've never really had to. I think every time I've done, tests on like if I'm like low on any of that stuff, I've always been able to get it through food because I kind of grew up with my parents forcing me to eat a lot of different foods, and I kind of grew up with especially that European culture. We have we have a wide variety of foods in the sense of like you'd be eating a lot of different food groups. So I kind of grew up with that, and where I can just hit everything that I needed was always found in my food. Vitamin D was always, I love going outside in summer. I always try to go outside, work from outside, try to get the vitamin D from the sun. And yeah, kind of just, it's funny as well. My parents in winter, leading up to winter when people were getting the cold and the flu, they would make me eat raw garlic because raw garlic is really good for you. Vitamin C, yeah, exactly. But funnily enough, I was never sick when I was younger. I don't think I've ever had the flu, and to be honest, I maybe got the flu shot when I was younger. Haven't really got it since I was like 10 years old. Never really had the flu in my most recent memory. Get the cold occasionally, maybe from a flight, because on the flight you get a bit dehydrated. Your body gets, the immune system gets a bit weaker. So on the flight, I always sometimes manage to get sick. However, yeah, very rarely get sick, and raw garlic's always been like a habit to eat kind of thing. Just as I think my family have been very big on eating the right foods to, get the vitamins and get the minerals that you need to have.
Yeah, fair. And then I guess going to more of like the recovery aspects. Do you? I'm sure, like, do you do like saunas, ice baths, like things like that, or things like before?
Oh, I mean,
like
being Russian, being Russian, like you have to do sauna. You just have to, So, I grew, I come off very privileged and very, I guess a bit spoiled. But my dad actually built a sauna in our backyard because he's just like his number one goal when we moved to Australia was to have a pool and have a sauna, because it's just part of the Russian culture. It's a lot of European culture just to have easily accessible sauna. It's always been part of that European culture. It's always been part of our culture. So I sauna at least once a week, twice a week, probably. Like when I have time, just turn it on, and I would do a lot of cold and hot contrast. So our pool isn't heated. So I would go in a sauna, do my recovery in there, and then I would jump in the pool and be in there a couple of minutes. And late at night, the pool's sitting at about 10 degrees, 12 degrees. And if you contrast that with the sauna, it is quite cold. So I would do a lot of that. From a very young age, my dad always told me to finish on a cold shower. And I think now it's funny enough, like now it's become such a big thing, like ice baths and cold shower, with the whole Wim Hof and everything like that. So this is things that I've learned from a young age, like kombucha was always a thing growing up with my family and when I was younger. When now it's like the biggest, like now, or not as much now, but it was a big thing. Everyone was making kombucha at home. I don't know if you've heard kefir, like that fermented milk.
Yeah, I
Like
think so.
it's like it's incredibly good for you because like fermented food, probiotics, all that stuff. Again, that was just part of everyday culture for me when I was younger, and I think that's why I've always been very big on food as being my recovery as well, because you can get all those vitamins and supplements through food. It's potentially it's a bit harder to, especially with how the cost of living is now, but it's always been found through food. And
So,
sorry, I think I've kind of gone off topic a bit, but with the recovery, what you were saying, yeah, food and general exercise as well. Like I always, when I'm bored watching TV, I always get the roller out and I'll stretch my lower back because shooting can put strain on your back, on your arms and stuff. So I will always do exercise like that. From overtraining, I've developed a bit of I forgot what it's called, but it's basically called golfer's elbow. It's like a lot of golfers get it in their elbow. It's kind of like tennis elbow, but it's on the other side of the elbow. So it's on this side, the inside. So I just do a lot of resistance training and strength training for that as well. Just when I'm watching TV, a lot of like the grip thing where you pull like that thing. I'll put on the low weight, and it just builds up strength through my arm, and I use that as a recovery as well. So recovery is fortunately pretty easy in shooting, but it's still pretty important.
how often do you do the grip thing, squeezing the grip?
I honestly I have it at work when I'm doing admin at work. I do it. It builds up strength. When I'm watching TV, I do it, and I've got a stress ball in the car. When I drive, I squeeze the stress ball.
Yeah,
it's kind of just building strength in the arms.
Right. Just squeeze.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right.
That's fair. And so, just really quickly, then, interestingly, so when did your dad isn't very into shooting? Is it more obviously your mum, or was your dad a good?
Yeah. So no. My dad is very into shooting. So my dad grew up with this in the sport of shooting as well, but more of a hobby and for fun. It was never very competitive.
In Germany,
Russia. Yeah.
Sorry. And how you moved here, like with your mum or something, like.
Yeah. So basically, my dad grew up in the sport. I went to university to become a coach. So they have a lot of university courses where you can become like a coach within the sport. So basically, kind of like a physical education sport, a bachelor of physical education. But then in their last year of studies, their fourth year of studies, they specialize within the sport. So my dad specialized in volleyball and shooting. So he then became the national strength and conditioning coach for the Belarusian shooting team. And that's where he met my mum. And so they kind of just knew each other from there. And then obviously becoming more than friends, I guess. And then he started becoming a coach within the sport. And then my dad was kind of as a backup plan, really got into the gunsmithing and the mechanics side of shooting. So basically, a gunsmith is someone that builds the grips on the gun, so the thing that you hold, because it's a wooden grip, as well as just repairs guns in general. And he was always really good with his hands. He was born to be someone like that builds stuff with his hands. He was never into like the admin computer side of things. He could never do that. He was always like, he built a sauna in our backyard. He built a decking. He built everything. So he's very much that kind of person. So for the 2000 Olympics, he got asked to work for the Australian shooting team as the national gunsmith. So we moved to Australia full time at that time from 97 till 2000, because my mum said, look, it's just easier for me to train in Australia and compete for Belarus, but still live in Australia and then, go to competitions from Australia around the world, and then compared to the Sydney Olympics because we were living in Canberra at the time, where the Australian Institute of Sport was. And then yeah, so he got offered to do that contract. Became a gunsmith in Australia, and then after the Sydney 2000, it was time to go home. But then we got asked to stay in Australia to work for Beretta, which is a really big gun company in the world. Beretta Australia, they're Beretta Australia, but they're an Italian gun company. If you play Call of Duty, then you would have heard of the company. Like there's a lot of Beretta guns in the game. So he got asked to be a gunsmith for the company. Because if you look at a shotgun, there's like that wooden stock on it that people hold. So my dad builds those as well.
Wow.
And the shotgun community in Australia is quite big. Some of the best shooters in the world in shotgun are Australian. So he got asked to work for Australia, work in Australia, and my mum got asked to compete for Australia. And it was kind of a no-brainer at the time because living in the 90s in post-USSR country there was a lot of tough times there. Economically, it was a really tough country, and it was, I guess, it was just a no-brainer to move to Australia. And we ended up just staying in Australia and went from there.
What year was it when like your parents flipped to like the Australian side, like stopped competing for Russia and started like competing for Australia?
My mum competed for the Belarus in the Sydney 2000 Olympics, where she won a bronze medal. But then in 2002, competed for Australia at the Manchester Commonwealth Games. So it's a very quick turnaround. I think it would have been around 2001 because she's had to qualify for that team. And I think they were able to speed it up because my dad got a citizenship, and B, they just wanted her to represent Australia in sport, and they said, let's speed up the process so she can, and sped it up for me, my sister, and my mum.
Well, it sounds like the combo of your mum and your dad, like there's no points of why you're an Olympian.
Yeah, exactly right.
The conditioning for shooting, and then like Olympic shooter. I think it's like the perfect person. So I'm pretty sure with you, like when you're shooting, like how many of them would be like a bullseye? I'm not like like the middle of the target. I'm sure you'd be like with 19 out of 20 be like in the middle. Like what would be
you'd hope so. It's one of those things that you'd hope so. That's what you're going for. So to put it in perspective, so because we do 60 shots and the bullseyes are 10, so a perfect score is 600.
Yeah.
Like, if you do the math, the world record in my event is a 594. So which basically means that person shot the 10 ring 54 times, and then there were 6 9s after that.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my personal best is a 590. So which means I shot the 10 ring 50 times, and then I shot the ring that's outside the 10 ring, like the 9 ring, 10 times.
Okay.
So at the World Championships recently, where I was 1 point off the final, unfortunately, I shot a 582. And so that basically means I think I shot an 8 in there, or maybe 2 8s, which obviously takes away 2 points, which is like a bigger ring. So if the 10 rings like this, 9 rings like this, 8 rings like this, obviously there were some shots in that ring. But in that match, I think I would have shot 45 to 50 10s, bullseyes, and then the rest just outside the bullseye.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense? Like, can you kind of picture that?
So what's like the world record? Is it obviously like 100%?
So, no, 594.
594. All right. You're only 4 points.
594. So so my personal best is only 4 points off the world record, and at World Champs the cutoff was a 583, where I shot a 582.
Okay, so like, and what generally is like a gold medal at the Olympics score?
So to qualify for the final, how it works in our sport is we qualify for the final, top 6 make the final, and then everyone starts at 0, and then they shoot the final. The finals run in the knockout format, so everything in 4 seconds, and you have to shoot. Basically, you have to shoot the bullseye. It's hit or miss, and a 9.7 is a hit. So just outside the 10 ring, is a hit, and whoever gets a hit, most hits at the end wins. So the last Olympics, I think the winner was 34 out of 40 hits. So basically, 6 of the 40 shots that they did were outside the 9.7 ring, which is very, very impressive.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I think the way the sport of shooting is now, it's about making the final, and then you have to be a finals level shooter as well. You have to just switch your brain and to get ready to shoot a final.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.